Really, I guess the question is, when you talk about financial planning, what is it, and really, why do we do it? Anybody gone on vacation ever? Probably. And you probably spent a pretty good amount of time planning for that vacation, right? Well, it's just like that, except this is a much more expensive vacation and much more important, too. And so what we really need to know is, first of all, where do you want to go? Where are you at right now? And then finally, how do you get there? And in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're doing. So the first thing that we have to really take a look at is, what are your goals and objectives? Okay. So if you look at this yellow sheet here, this is kind of a way to, and one of our handouts here, it's something that you can take home and kind of do yourself. You can become your own financial planner to some degree. And really what it is we're going to rank what are those things that you want to accomplish. And on the right-hand side there's some recommendations. The first thing that's going to be on most people's list is, how do I retire in the lifestyle that I've become accustomed to, or the lifestyle that I want during retirement, and make sure that retirement lasts throughout my lifetime, right? And so that's one of those things. It's probably going to be the top thing on that list. But in addition to that, there's going to be other things that we can put numbers to, dollar amounts to, and time horizons to. And really that's what we want to do, is take an inventory of all the things that you'd like to accomplish from a financial standpoint. Because in the handout here, one of the quotes is that if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably end up somewhere else, right?
Yeah. What do you think people's biggest fears are?
Being a bag lady.
Huh?
Being a bag lady.
Yeah, right. And I see it in people that have $30 to $50 million, or people that have a small amount. It's that, will I outlive my resources? And that is such a fear. And nobody will kind of sit down with an advisor or a CPA and say, well, what's the realistic, intelligent way of this happening? And you run the numbers, because people know how old they are. Do people change their habits, spending habits?
Oh, during retirement? Everybody says that they're going to spend less during retirement, but when actually we see the opposite happening in a lot of cases, where you're actually spending more during retirement. At least the same. Very rarely is it going to be less than you're spending while you're working.
So one of the first things that you want on these yellow sheets is that, hey, I want to fund a college education for my grandchildren, or I want to spend I want to have time for more vacations, or more money for vacations.
And really it's a question of choices, because we need to prioritize these goals as we go along. Well, what's the most important goal? Probably retirement. We want to make sure that we have enough money to last throughout your lifetime. So you assign that the highest priority, and then we work down from there. Funding the college education, travel, those all are going to be different priorities for different people.
So this is not just a frivolous exercise?
No, absolutely not. This is something that you should be working on.
Do you use this with every client, or almost every client?
This is part of the package that we use with every client. So, yeah. Okay. So really, it's about getting that ultimate destination in mind, so that we know where we're going. Okay, so that's the first piece of the puzzle. Next, we have to figure out, well, where are we right now? Where are we starting from? And if you look at this orange sheet that's also here, this is an income and expense statement. Okay, and it's front and back here. But what this does is it kind of helps you get your monthly expenses and incomes in line. We need to know from a cash flow standpoint what are our inputs and what are our outflows. And when we get that, we can actually set some planning around, well, if we're saving X amount, then how do we invest it? And really, is that going to be enough to get to our goals? Or do any of these things need adjusting so that you can achieve those goals that we put down on that yellow sheet? Does that make sense? Okay.
Sounds like a horrible exercise.
All to one retirement. That's alternative one. In other words, what do you expect to be, what are you spending now, what do you expect to be spending in retirement?
Correct. And when we look at income and expenses, all of this work can be facilitated through programs called like Quicken. If you use your credit card statements, if you use your bank account statements, you can actually go through and itemize all those expenditures. The thing is, don't forget about all the pocket change or the ATM withdrawals. All those outflows should also be assigned as well, so that you can get the most accurate picture that you can when you're talking about income and expense.
Why is it important for you as a financial planner to know how much I'm spending on an annual basis?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's also going to give us the ability, if we can figure out what are the necessity spending and what are the discretionary spendings, then we can also figure out how much you can afford to set aside, or if lifestyle changes need to be made so that you can achieve those goals. Right?
So it'll determine whether or not I'm not going to run out of money for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. When it comes to that day of when the income eventually stops from one source and starts from another, is that transition going to be viable?
Does it determine the investment asset allocation model that you use?
Yes, absolutely. The ability to save is going to be one piece of that investment schedule when you're putting together a plan and you're actually implementing, which we're going to go into next week.
Yeah.
Let me just say one thing that I think is really important to us. See, people that are already retired quite often come into me, they know exactly how much they spend every month. And you don't have to go through this exercise if you already know it. And it's very helpful because there's quite a few people that know exactly how much they spend every month and they know what their income is. If we know that, then we can go right ahead and get the other figures.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get to is that would be horrible if we made an investment and we needed the cash to live comfortably, and we had to pull out of that investment right at the wrong period of time.
Absolutely.
You know? So it's if I was selling you a product, would I care what your cash flow is going to be? No. Your budget? I don't care. First of all, nobody wants to talk about budgeting. I don't. I hate the word. That's why I like cash flow. But you can't make an investment decision if you don't know kind of how much you spend on an annual basis. And you've got to have a number out there.
Absolutely.
And you can use it, sit down with somebody. This sheet right here reminds me of, can you be your own shrink? I don't think so. I think you need somebody to kind of sit down with you and prod you and say, okay, come on, let's write it down. What are your goals? What's most important for you? If you could do it yourself, super. But I think it's very difficult to be honest with yourself.
It is, and a lot of times. I've talked with people and they want to I absolutely want to save for college for the grandchildren, when we know that they're going to be woefully short of their retirement goals. Well, really, in that kind of case, we understand that the grandchildren are important and education is going to be paramount. However, if you're going to become a burden on the next generations and you're not doing your part to take care of your own retirement, then really where's that balance fall into play? And that's going to be one of those, just one of the examples.
Yeah, some parents can't say no to the kids. A lot of times it happens, and that's another good reason to have a fee-only advisor. Because, blame it on the fee-only advisor. I would give you money, honey, but my fee-only advisor says I better not. You go talk to him. It works.
Who's primarily responsible for your grandchildren's education? Your children.
There you go. There you go.
Right?
Oh,
Ask the room.
And you got community colleges, you got state college, you got the UCI. You don't have to go to Harvard.
All kinds of different ways.
My mother has a total net worth probably of $150,000. And that's including her home. She saves money on her Social Security income. I don't know how she does it. She has set aside $40,000, $10,000 for each one of us in a CD. We beg her, please spend that money. She's 89. Let's spend that money. Can't. It's for us as kids. You know? And that's her choice. And so, there's nothing about money that's totally rational. And so, if she doesn't want to spend it, great, that's okay. But try to get her to even give it away to one of my sisters who needs the money today. She will not do that. That's to her, is her choice. Her kids are the most important, and I could go run into families that says the grandchildren are the most important. Forget the kids; they're a lost cause. The grandchildren, they're the wonderful people. So it really is true. You gotta know what those goals are. We're all different. None of us are the same. So, we talked a little bit about cash flow. Anything else on cash flow?
Cash flow, no, that's basically it. And really, it's gonna give you a lot and the reason why there's so many categories is because it's gonna give you things and categories that you might have forgot about. It's easy to forget where the money goes at the end of the month. And so this is kind of a good way to recall.
If you're married, do not show that sheet to your spouse. Okay? Number one reason for divorce is money. Okay? So we all have a little stash on the side that we don't have to talk to the spouse about. Is there a business around that operates on a cash, that doesn't do a cash flow analysis?
No.
No, not a business. In our personal life, though, we tend to ignore it. So, but somehow we do. We just have a different mechanism of keeping track of what we can and cannot spend. Is there a difference between cash flow for the younger generation and the older generation? Major. Your children already have your money spent. Okay? They're completely different. One of the things I think is one of the nice things that you can do for your kids is to give them a consultation or pay for an annual consultation with a fee-only advisor. Because they're not going to listen to you about money and cash flow, but they may listen to a fee-only advisor and get their affairs in order. Because it's not about buying products, it's how much they save.
Absolutely.
And where they spend. And is there any encouragement from anywhere not to spend? I don't know of any. So, so there's very little. So that's why that cash flow analysis becomes so important.